You know what I realized about the July 4th week is there are a lot of really prominent quotes about freedom. I was trying to find just the right quote for the two of you, Dani, Sureck, Darren Urban, Paulie Podcast over here to commemorate the week, and I landed at this one. You guys ready for a quote? I know you're ready. That's rhetorical. Freedom lies in being bold. I have to keep them short because I know your attention span around here on Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation. I think I chose that one. It's Robert Frost, by the way. Dani, I know you knew that. But Darren was looking a little perplexed over there.
I got to be honest, Paul. You've been doing a lot of reading and research on these all-time quotes. I'm impressed.
And I asked myself, why did you choose that one? I think just because this time of year with the big heat, I'll take anything with the word frost in it.
Oh, God, yes.
You know, frostbite, defrost, frosting.
Is the air conditioning on in here?
Frosted tips. I'll take anything with the word frost in it this time of year.
I'm with you.
I don't see any frosted tips, though.
Darren, nobody authorized more coffee for you. That's never good.
Plain water, Paul.
Okay. All right.
Or vodka, you never know.
Because we did have that one episode last month where Darren had way too much coffee. We had to take his car keys, put it that way. So freedom is the theme. Freedom is what this week is all about. And how are we tying this into the Arizona Cardinals 2025 again? Once again, I think you're going to have to dumb it down for yours truly.
I think we're going to look at this, Paul, and say, what are we hoping the Cardinals have some freedoms to do this season to be a successful team?
Okay. All right. Because did you know that another one they like to say, the secret to happiness is freedom. So if Nick Rallis, defensive coordinator, has the freedom to rush only 4, yes, we said 4, and drop 7, is that the freedom we're talking about if you're a D coordinator?
Sounded like the freedom that Josh Sweat was talking about when he spoke with the media recently.
Yes.
And someone had asked about his time in Philly, which were statistically 2 of his best career seasons when he was with the Eagles with Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis. And Sweat was saying it's early. He didn't show up for voluntary OTAs, was here for mandatory minicamp. So he only has 3 practices under his belt in a Cardinals practice jersey. But he feels like he's going to have similar freedom in this defense.
I don't know if you guys remember last year. I think it was last year. It might have been 2 years ago now with Gannon. And at one point he was describing how he likes to teach the defense. And it was a very, you can color anywhere you want as long as you stay inside the lines or something like along those lines. Like he's going to set up his box and then you can draw whatever you want as long as you remain within the box. So you can do some different things if you're an individual player in terms of technique and stuff, as long as you're executing your scheme. And that's what I think of the freedom. And it's funny you bring up the 4 rushers because it's like I feel like that's a double freedom. Like at one, we're talking about the freedom of these rushers to get to the passer, like Josh Sweat was talking about, like the freedom to be able to do a little stuff that he wants to do within the framework. But also the freedom of you've built up this defense so much that you can get to the quarterback with just 4 of these guys, and you have the freedom to not have to blitz and not have to use so many defenders. And all of a sudden, what is that? What kind of box does that open up for Nick Rallis in terms of attacking teams? Because
remember when Josh Sweat, upon signing with the Cardinals, was asked about his Super Bowl performance, where he easily could have been named Super Bowl MVP, with his 2.5 sacks and 2 TFLs, and he was just a game wrecker and a real headache all game long. And they said, well, what was the difference in that game? What was the key? Was it just Super Bowl and you were amped up? And he said Vic Fangio came in with a game plan against Patrick Mahomes and said, attack. And he said, that is what Jonathan Gannon essentially tasked me with, especially my second year in the system when he had a career-high 11 sacks. Just get after it. Go forward. Be aggressive. So if that indeed is the way in which they are going to use Josh Sweat in this scheme, I have a feeling we're going to have like a hashtag. If he has like a bunch of sacks to start the year, the hashtag is going to start trending free Sweat. That'll be the hashtag, Josh Sweat. Because if they do set him free in this thing, all of a sudden you go from like, 15 guys last year who had 2 sacks or more? What if you had one guy with 15 sacks?
That's the goal. Whatever Sweat was best at throughout his career, you're not going to bring in a free agent and ask them to do something completely different. You might ask them to change a few things. Mack Wilson Sr. is a great example of that, as somebody who didn't have a lot of opportunities, didn't do as much in New England, as he is doing and is tasked with here with the Cardinals, if Sweat is really good at A, B, and C in his game, you're going to bring him here to bring A, B, and C to your game in a position room that has been desperate for a little more power, for a little more threat coming off that defense. So whatever was working with Sweat to have that freedom to come here, and the fact that he can already sense that he's going to have similar freedom, that sounds like a very realistic possibility to go from having 15 players on this defense with 2 sacks to having 1 player with 15. The freedom that Sweat is going to have and what that is going to allow him to do is different than everyone else in that room. Everybody else has a different skill set. The freedom that Sweat is going to play with and what that's going to allow him to do is going to look different than what Baron Browning is going to be able to do, or Zaven Collins, or BJ Ojolari. That doesn't make it bad, but you bring in Sweat for a reason. So if there's one player who you just want to tell him, go out there and let it rip, it's him.
I got to be honest, Paul. You just got through getting us through the first part of this by talking about Frost, making me feel a little bit better, and now we keep talking about Sweat. I mean, that just does not work for me.
It's true.
As I sweat under these lights.
Well, we're Eco Opportunity Podcasts. We cover everything and anything in between. As you know, Darren, John F. Kennedy once said, conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth.
Ooh.
So, once again, how does this defense grow? Well, that freedom is brought in the form of maybe rushing 4 or in someone who has that much versatility. What did we call it last year? 11-card pickup?
To
Darren's point.
But I think that was correct.
Maybe it was the royal we. To Darren's point, you have the lines in the coloring book. Just stay within the lines, but you can color it any way you want. So they keep stockpiling these guys who are really versatile. Last year it was Zaven Collins and company. Mac Wilson. Now you're adding Jordan Birch, who has played inside and out, did so for Oregon. Josh Sweat at 265, 6'5", could easily be sucked inside and has been at different times. Darius Robinson was talking this minicamp about how he's played anywhere from the nose all the way out to the 5 and even the 7 technique way outside. Walter Nolan has that versatility. So all of a sudden you're giving Nick Rallis even more guys who can be anywhere at any time. Remember Matthew Stafford at the end of last year getting ready for the Cardinals game, week 17, and he was talking about, they have some really almost borderline unsound defensive schemes that makes it really difficult, even as a 15-year veteran like Matthew Stafford, to figure out, okay, who's coming, when, from where, and it just seems like the Cardinals are even more equipped to do that this year.
Well, you've got all of those things, plus, and I know we've talked about a bunch of new players, so they're going to have to learn some things, but you're talking about Rallis with his 3rd year in the system. And it's funny, now that you bring it up, like I kept wondering, and we've talked about this, but I kept wondering, as they collected players, would it be less of that? We talked about that last year with the outside linebacker rotation. Hey, if they got a guy like Chandler Jones, or now that they actually have a Josh Sweat, do you rotate a little less because you're paying all the money, which still might happen. However, to Paul's point, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this just increases the chance of 11-player pickup and doing even more crazy stuff.
I mean, I'm really intrigued. Week 1 at New Orleans. I
feel bad for whoever that quarterback is.
I was going to say the football gods are going to really have to help, Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shook, whoever it is, it's going to be a young, inexperienced quarterback. There, you talk about seeing ghosts, the old Sam Darnold from years ago in the Jets.
Is he never going to live that down, Paul?
Never. Especially week 4, Thursday Night Football, when Seattle comes to town. We've already got that marked down. Pace yourself. So, okay, there's one freedom if you're Nick Rallis. And by the way, just as a quick coda, if you will, punctuation on that.
Yeah.
The first thing Drew Stan said about rushing 4 is even more important than that is stopping the run with 4. Yeah. So if you can stop the run with 4, then now you're really cooking. So, all right, especially on a barbecue week like July 4th.
Oh, good. Let's talk more heat.
Cooking outdoors.
I thought he was talking about stopping the run.
We're now talking about Kyler Murray running the ball. There were a few big themes of the offseason through OTAs and mandatory minicamp. Kyler running the ball more.
Whose freedom would that be if he did it?
That's the question, Darren, and that's exactly where I was going.
Oh, I'm sorry. I stepped on you.
Design runs or the freedom of Kyler to just be more aggressive in the moment as he deems necessary?
Dani?
It's hard. To me, this is too early. It's a very intriguing topic, given the quarterback's skill set with his legs that not many other quarterbacks in this league have. The last couple of years, though, it's been clear that's not going to be something that this offense is going to rely on with Murray. More design runs? Possibly. I don't think it's going to be enough to where it's something we're going to be talking about every week of an insane jump and seeing that, because that isn't what we have seen. And last year, Murray even talked about that before the season began, of he doesn't want to go out there and be the superhero. If the play breaks down or whatever it might be and he needs to rely on his legs, he's fine. He doesn't want that to be a focal point of this offense. I'm hesitant to sit here and say, I absolutely think we're going to see an increase in design runs when it's not something we have seen in the last couple of years. Now, the freedom to scramble and more off-script plays, sure, that's something that the quarterback was talking about working on with the offense throughout this offseason, is trying to replicate the best that you can certain plays in a game so that if something breaks down, nobody feels unprepared. Whether that is Murray, that's the offensive line and how long they need to block, or the routes that need to be run by the receivers. So it seems like they are working to make sure everybody is on pace to be on the same page for those off-script plays. I'm hesitant to sit here and say that we are going to see a jump in design runs for the quarterback when it's not something that we've seen, and it doesn't really feel like something he wants to do.
Because when we say design runs, you know what I think of immediately? Is week 5 last year, Cardinals' second play from scrimmage on offense, and what happened at the 49ers in 111-degree heat. What happened? He gone. Kyler around the right end, found the seam. A couple of nice seal blocks from the two tight ends. Just ask them. They'll tell you. Trey McBride and Tip Ryman, how they sealed it. There's the lane. Kyler, finger up in the air, and gone. 50 yards. Now, we didn't see a lot of that the rest of the year. Is that because defenses adjusted? And there were a lot more spies? Do you think maybe, just maybe, the Cardinals thought back on 2024 and said, that's a real game changer. Not many quarterbacks in the league, you can count on one hand, are capable of doing that. Maybe we should feature that a little bit more.
I'm curious to know. I feel like on the other side of that coin, when Drew Petzing was talking about being, and Kyler Murray did the same thing, when they're talking about hitting on more off-schedule stuff, like, it was funny how Drew Petzing described it as like one year like working within the parameters of the offense, which is what you're talking about.
Yep.
And then one being like a basketball point guard and getting it to the right people when it's off schedule.
Fast break.
And it's a fascinating thought. And then I go back to what Dani's talking about, which is, and even to the theme of the freedom stuff, like, does Kyler want the freedom to run that much? Does he like the idea of not doing it a lot because he'd prefer not to be in harm's way? And obviously when he's running the ball, you're in harm's way. You just are as a quarterback. It's interesting because when Dani brings up that Kyler talks about not wanting to be a hero, which I get it, and he said it, and it's probably a good thought process. I think to myself, and they're different players, don't get me wrong, but like, is Lamar Jackson being a hero when he runs as much as he does? And a lot of his stuff is off schedule. Like, he does run design runs, but there's lots of times when he's running just scrambling.
Yeah. Sure.
And I don't see that as being a hero. I see that as, hey, your best player is really good at that. Let's do more of that.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
And so if Kyler and this team are in a make or break year, then go for broke, I guess is what I'm saying. And does that include Kyler? Or as Jean-Paul Sartre once said, famous philosopher, freedom is what we do with what is done to us. Not sure I totally understand that. But in a football context, I think that's way above my head. Football context, you know what? If they're bringing numbers, okay, hold them honest. If they're going to bring the blitz or they get immediate penetration and all of a sudden they're in the backfield, what Drew Stanton says quarterbacks like to call the Santa Claus effect, when you get a pass rusher right in your lap, then all of a sudden, boom, you react. Instead of throwing the ball away or throwing the ball at someone's feet or what have you, check down. No, maybe you're more inclined to tuck it and run it. I guess that's my question about this coming season. Are we going to be more apt to see that?
These are fair questions, and it's not something that is unrealistic for Murray's skill set and this offense, an offense that likes to run the ball. And in the last 2 years, we've seen a little more, not trickery, disguise and changing things up in the offense. I mean, even Murray being in or under center more. Like that was a change, right? That was a big focal point in 2024. It's possible design runs are going to be a focal point in 2025. It's just, it's hard to commit to that when it is not something that we have seen not only from this coaching staff, but from Murray himself and his time here.
I keep thinking back to the idea that every time on a national level, and for NFL, every game is a national game because you've got people coming from the storyline is always, and I don't know if it's lazy at this point or if it's because what they think, but the storyline is always about what Kyler could hurt the defense with the legs. Now, going back to your point of whether defenses are spying him more, and maybe that's true. But if defenses are spying him more, that should be giving you an advantage in another way.
Yep.
And you need to exploit that. And if they're not, then I agree with a lot of these things. Like there's a reason why defenses are scared of Kyler Murray. So you gotta scare them.
There are definitely games, especially in the second half of last year, where the spy was in the game plan on third down. Third and passing downs, the spy was definitely in. And there were a couple of times where Kyler, I think, started to move out of the pocket, and he could tell there was a linebacker going with him, or there was a safety going with him. He could see peripherally, okay, there's a spy on me. Now I got to go to the air because, it's going to be too risky to make a run for the sticks on third and got to have it. Or maybe if we're talking about running the ball more, and this is off the top of my head, if I would have had some foresight, I would have checked the analytics, although I'm not exactly sure where to go for two-back sets last year. When Trey Benson and James Conner were both healthy, how often did the Cardinals run two-back sets?
We'll get Zach Gershman on that, and sometime in the near future we'll revisit this.
And this is sparked by last month Trey Benson meeting the media during mandatory minicamp and saying, you know what, my goal as the young guy, right, behind the established Pro Bowler James Conner, 1,000-yard rusher James Conner, is to push him and this offense to have two RB1s. Do you think maybe that's how this run game evolves? Maybe all of a sudden it's Kyler, and behind him are split backs, Trey Benson and James Conner.
I know at the Combine, Jonathan Gannon brought up Trey Benson being a second RB1. So it's in the air. Now, how that's deployed, how that manifests itself, we'll have to see.
Okay. All right.
By the way, I got to give big props to you, Paulie. The preparation to have all these quotes in line, that's a big plus.
These all sound like posters.
That's going in Culture
scattered
Amp,
throughout
baby.
elementary school classrooms.
Unfortunately, I don't have the author on a lot of these. Here's a popular one. There was no author attached. Freedom is the oxygen of the soul.
Ooh.
How about that one?
I like that one.
Yeah. Let's see. What can I attach that to as a nice segue here? Let's see. How about the deep passing game? How about a chunk passing play?
That would give me oxygen.
Because I ripped this stat off from Craig Grilou. Cardinals were top 5 last year in chunk run plays, bottom 3rd in the NFL in chunk passing plays.
Chunk being on the ground.
Explosives.
But just so people know the distance, what is considered a chunk play? It's 20 in the air, 10 on the ground.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
Just so people, we're not making this up of
the
stats, but that's how it is. 10 on the ground, 20 in the air.
It's a real stat. The coaches definitely track it. And I think we all agree, the eyeball test or the analytics, Cardinals, there's room to grow when it comes to the deep passing game.
Oh, heck yeah.
So does that come with, I guess theoretically it's all the above. If you improve the run game, then you're maybe getting an extra safety into the box. You're getting them out of the two high safeties in the shell coverage that everyone loves to run.
I'll ask you this question.
Okay.
I have the freedom to ask this question. To both of you, really. So the pass play is 20 yards, right, for an explosive. Are you okay if 50% of their explosive pass plays are 10-yard passes that get yards after the catch rather than up over the top?
Personally, I'm more than fine with it. If it's James Conner and Trey McBride not going down in first contact.
What if it's Marvin Harrison and Michael Wilson not going down on first contact?
Sure. Whatever it takes.
It's coloring within the lines. However you get from A to B, I don't really care as long as you get there.
What Greg Dortch say this offseason about Marvin Harrison Jr. and the gains, the muscle mass? He's like, yeah, good luck with that. He was talking about DBs.
Yeah.
So, if all of a sudden Marvin Harrison Jr. is Trey McBride to a certain degree, the whole get off me, right? And Sauce Gardner goes for a ride, and you're turning it upfield and getting a key first down.
Larry Fitzgerald. After a couple of years.
Easy, Darren. Now, you don't want to spark the mailbag over here, okay? The whole
Larry Fitzgerald, you'll run after the catch type stuff.
There you go. Yes.
Todd Haley, where are you? I know you're a big fan of Paul Calvisi.
Yeah. And the point you're making is that 3 years into his career, Larry grew immensely in that category, run after catch.
Because our guy, Todd Haley, and Ken Wisenhunt made sure that they made Larry understand that what he was doing
big
was
dog. The
unacceptable.
line was, you're a big dog, not a little dog. So run through the secondary with impunity.
There was no beeps in your statement, Paul. That's probably incorrect.
That's right. So, okay. But if this year is anything like last year, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to get their top cornerback every single game.
This is true.
And he'll probably get some bracket coverage over the top and key passing downs. So to me, and I've said this repeatedly, I've said this ad nauseum, to me, it's about wide receiver too. We know about Trey McBride. You know about Marvin Harrison. I think he will be better this year, but there better be somebody else who steps up and has to be a reliable target on third down in particular, and then hopefully downfield, whether it's Dortch, Michael Wilson, Zay Jones. They're all capable of it. I mean, Dani, what's your confidence level one of those guys actually checks that box?
I'm going to continue with it is too early to see. And that is a fair statement to make given what we didn't see last year in that. And not even just third down, but a true wide receiver too. This is Michael Wilson's job for the taking. Like, it is his job to lose as having that title of wide receiver too. You just need more consistency also from Harrison, but you need more consistency from the receivers opposite of him to be a threat. And not just in the blocking game, but to be a threat for Murray to find. I also think there's a very big chance if you're looking for your big third down receiver, Paul, I think he's already on the team. I think it is 85. I think it is McBride. He has shown that he is consistent. He has very sticky hands. He's very good in that aspect. He is tough to bring down, 513 yards after catch last year, which is almost as many as Michael Wilson had total at 548 receiving yards. So I agree with you. You need a third down receiver. In an ideal world, yes, that might be a wide receiver out wide, and the Cardinals can still need that. I think there's a very good chance the third down receiver you're looking for is already on this team.
What do you think, Darren? You've seen a lot of receivers come and go. You've seen a lot of receivers get a lot of hype. You've seen a lot of receivers get a lot of buy-in, and then, doesn't quite materialize. Where are you on this collection of wide receivers behind Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Because of the Trey McBride factor, I am okay with it. I believe that this group can do what it's going to be asked to do. I believe Michael Wilson will take another step forward, just like I think Marvin Harrison is going to. I think Michael Wilson is disappointed in himself that he didn't take a greater step forward last year. I think there's a lot of things involved there and some things that are beyond Michael Wilson's control. But I do think that they have a chance to be good. And I will say this. I don't think, this is, again, my speculation, I do not think that if there had been significant concern from Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon about this receiver room, that it would have been as untouched, relatively untouched as it is.
You're right. I mean, believe your eyes. Believe the decisions then were not made. And sometimes some of the biggest and best decisions by general managers in every sport are the ones that are not made.
You don't mind.
I'm just generally curious. What major free agent receivers were signed that would have fit here, right? We talked a lot about Amari Cooper as an older receiver, somebody who doesn't really block. So I'm in a camp where I disagree.
Okay.
I guess is the point I'm trying to make.
You're saying they didn't do anything because there was nobody to do anything with.
I think there were a couple of factors. I think one, there is belief there, and you can see that in the consistency across the offense as a whole throughout the offseason and the lack of acquisitions that were made. And that was a focal point last year and even the year prior in some of the cuts that were being made during the season. There is belief there. you can still use more. And I think it's a combination of you really needed to focus on the defense, and that is where a lot of your money went. And then you're looking at who is available, what free agents are out there, and not only money-wise, but what free agents fit with what they look for in their receivers, which is somebody who can block. And when you're coming in and you already know you're going to be behind Harrison and you're going to be behind Trey, who makes sense financially is my question of when we talk about, okay, they didn't bring in a wide receiver in the offseason. Yes, that's true. Yes, that can mean that they believe they already have a true number 2 receiver. I also think, who are the options?
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I feel like in some ways you're arguing the same thing, in my opinion, because if you're weighing it and you're saying there's nobody out there who's better than Michael Wilson. Yes?
I'm also saying that more so that fits the system.
Okay, but that doesn't matter. Like, I guess my point is it's like what Monty was talking to me about during the owners' meetings. When I asked him about a speed receiver, and he's like, well, that's just one thing that we're looking at. Like, I understand what you're saying. And there might be a receiver out there, let's say Amari Cooper, just for a name. Amari Cooper is a better pass catcher than Michael Wilson, but because he doesn't do these other things, he doesn't fit the system as well. Well, all they're running is their system. So under that pretext, Amari Cooper is not better than Michael Wilson because you have to fit the system. That's how I look at it.
I think Dani's point, and I agree with this, for example, if Hollywood Brown would have been available, speed guy, someone you have knowledge of, who actually is a grinder behind the scenes, really good locker room dude. Mm-hmm. I mean, besties with Kyler, good chemistry. Like if Hollywood Brown would have been available, let's just say, and the price was right, and still has the speed to, stretch a defense, etc., I could have seen that acquisition. But you're right.
As your number 2?
Yes. It took battle for the number 2, just added to the room, as opposed to not adding a single receiver to the room other than Quez Watkins. So. I mean, think of all the mock drafts they had the Cardinals going receiver.
I get it.
So,
well, you can always. I'm not going to sit here and say they have the best receiver room in the world.
But it's probably a combination of both. A, there wasn't a great fit at the right price out there. But then B, they're feeling like, you know what? There's still ROI to be had in the back end of our receiver room. Return on investment. There's still a lot under the hood there that we didn't maximize in 2024. So
Zay Jones might be an answer to that question as well.
Yeah.
Did not get a lot of opportunity to see him play last year.
Here's a quote I'm going to protest just because I couldn't stand actually taking a whole semester of this.
It's your own quote, Paul.
Of this man's work in college. Thought is free, said Bill Shakespeare in The Tempest. Just to let you know, thought is free.
Thought is free.
So how about if you're looking at the secondary, and I'm not the one to say this, Garrett Williams said this, Jalen Thompson said this, DBs this year will have more freedom to ball hawk and go after passes because you know what? Your pass rush, at least on paper so far, looks like it's going to affect the quarterback a lot. So you're either going to get sacks or if you affect the quarterback, you hopefully get turnovers.
I love it. That's the goal. That's the marriage you want between the two. That's something that safety Buda Baker has talked about of interceptions have not been high year after year for him because he feels like quarterbacks are looking for him and throwing opposite of him on the field. So even if it's not Baker, if you can get some more turnovers and you can rely on that pass rush and force the quarterback to get rid of the ball a little faster, everybody wins. Again, it's getting from point A to point B, right? Okay, you obviously want to stop the offense, don't want them to move to chains. But if you can also force a turnover, whether that is on downs, an interception, whatever that might be, takes it to another level.
And again, circling back to where we were at the beginning of this, if you're rushing 4, it's a lot easier to have guys ball hawking when you got 7 guys doing all the stuff, covering in the back end.
Facts, no doubt.
You just use facts and besties in like a 4-minute
How about that?
Span.
Not that you're keeping score or anything. Here we go.
No, if I had a lamp, I would turn it on for you.
He's starting to get cultured, Dani.
This young secondary, does it need to be cultured / seasoned? Do they need to bring in some extra experience? To what degree on your radar here, Darren, between now and camp, do you think the likelihood is that maybe they're still kicking the tires? Because there are a few veteran proven corners out on the market.
I'm not going to rule it out, but without fear of being beaten down by the two of you, I think this is where, look, if you're going to spend all this draft capital and time and effort into bringing in and developing young cornerbacks, you play the young cornerbacks. They have too many at this point, in my mind, to make sense to sign another veteran. It would have been one thing if Murphy Bunting was healthy and you needed to see if he was in the mix because he was already here. I get it. But for me, you spent your last 2 second-round picks have been cornerbacks. You spent a couple of third-round picks on cornerbacks. You have another guy with a bunch of experience the last 2 years with Starling Thomas. If you're doing all that and you're only getting one in your slot, that's troubling to me if you're needing to add.
Why would we not agree with you in that? I agree with you completely.
Well, I wasn't sure.
Completely
you
agree with
wanted
that
to beat
thought.
me down on the wide receiver thing.
Well, that was about wide receivers. Now we're talking about cornerbacks. I completely agree. You're going to put in all this capital into the youth, and that is the head coach's position. That is his baby. He likes to call it. You have to develop the players at some point.
Paul tends to like the 1971 Washington Redskins. He likes the over-the-hill game. He's looking for all the veterans.
Come on. Oh, my goodness. And the name of the speedster, a longtime Washington cornerback.
Oh, you're not good with names, Paul.
Darryl
Green.
You want Darryl Green to come in?
You think Darryl? I want Darryl Green to walk through that door? Is that
even the over-the-hill game, we're talking way before Darryl Green, but that's
Consider
okay.
this your reminder to start refreshing on your names for Wise Guy, Paul.
Oh, my gosh. I gotta work.
I'm trying to help you.
2 months, Paul. You got 2 months.
I'm trying to help you out.
Do they sell headphones with AI in it? Because I might have to cheat this year.
You should, can we edit that out? You might want to trademark that.
I might have to have some headphones.
Edit that out. We'll trademark it.
Or maybe I'll put an earbud in here. Just hide one in here, like the kids do in the classroom, and they cheat with the earbud in there. And
why
then all
don't
of a
you
sudden,
make headphones with AI and put them on dogs on your Ozempic farm?
That's right.
There you go.
Wait a minute. I had a great dog idea the other day. What was it? It was because somebody stole my, weight loss drugs for dogs idea, which I had.
Somebody stole it?
Yeah, well, I had to pivot.
They must listen to Underground.
I had to pivot. Oh yeah, it was plastic surgery for dogs, maybe a little tuck under the the chin, maybe around the neck, some of the neck flap on the dog, No?
I feel like you are subtweeting Cheeto right now.
Oh, poor Cheeto.
Well, I'm losing. I'm trying to get him on a diet here for the summer, and it's not working out so well. Okay, so here's where I'm going with this. I've been the advocate for the young corners all along. How many times have I cited, and people are sick of it now, who won the Super Bowl with 2 rookie corners in their secondary because they had a ridiculous front seven and they had a great pass rush. So
True.
To me, if you have Max Melton and Will Johnson and Starling Thomas and Garrett Williams as a fixture, and who knows about Elijah Jones. In the little bit I watched in mandatory minicamp, there couldn't be more baseless than the following comment. I was intrigued by Elijah Jones based on mandatory minicamp.
I was intrigued.
Okay? He's tall. He's quick. You forget he ran a 4.4.
He's long.
He ran a 4.4. He has really good ball skills. He played a lot of ball at Boston College. Started a lot of games. So I am curious how quickly he can get up to speed in the month of August. If you told me Elijah Jones played the first half of or the second half of every single preseason game, I would not be shocked because I think they're going to try and find out what they have.
That makes sense. Makes sense a lot.
So we'll see.
We're all on the same page for young cornerbacks.
Yeah. By the way, you know who enjoyed, and I'll leave it with this, the most freedom the last year plus of anyone on this team, it has to be Budda Baker. Talk about setting someone free.
That's true.
Budda Baker, and I think he'll even, what Troy Polamalu was to the deep center field position as a safety, Budda Baker, and I think the national media is slow to realize this, and they'll come around to it this year, especially if the Cardinals are a winning team and, dare I say, a playoff team. They'll realize Budda is the Troy Polamalu. Oh! I'm getting all fired up. We'll edit that out later. The Troy Polamalu of the box safety, Budda Baker.
Watch me here, Paul. I'm going to now weave together my one quote as we wrap up.
Wait, it's my new phone.
And we might have to talk about that. My one quote as we wrap up, and also the Budda Baker thing. Did you know that they once said, Paul, freedom isn't free? And given the contract Budda Baker just got,
okay,
his freedom was not free for the Arizona Cardinals.
So you're tying it into a business sense.
Yeah, well,
okay.
you know.
All right. I got you. All right, that's not bad. Anything else we missed on this Freedom Edition of Cardinals Underground?
Do you guys man the grill for 4th of July?
I might. It depends if it's 172 degrees outside like it is today. I don't know if I will.
There was an unfortunate July 4th a couple of years ago where yours truly might have overcooked the burgers. And when I walked in, someone went into my office and grabbed a couple of the Coyotes hockey pucks.
Oh, no.
The vulcanized rubber that I had on my desk, right, as a souvenir, some stuff. And they took one of the hockey pucks and they put it between 2 hamburger buns and they put it on the top of the platter that I put on the island. Everyone's a smart aleck at Casa Calvisi. And occasionally I'm relieved of my barbecuing duties if my brother-in-law is over.
You might need to redeem yourself.
I try and make sure, the meat is grilled
So
properly.
you like your burgers well done?
Well, not by design. I just somehow it always ends up that way. I don't know why.
I'm with you.
I'm trying to do a thorough job.
I'm not great on the grill.
Ends up being too thorough.
Effort.
Yeah.
Okay.
The worst moment is when the wife says, "Do you want me to call my brother?" No. And that'll do it for this edition of Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation.